I think coming out, I was nervous about the response from Poland, if I'm being honest. And, some of the people out here, just because I know it is a more conservative country and, there are certain laws in place around, that type of thing. It's cool to have people come up to me and be like, oh, I saw you in Zaksa, or I saw you in Resovia. And for me, I'm like, you know what that is? Like, I didn't know what Zaksa was until 10 years ago, He is willing to just be in front of the ball, no block, doesn't care, wants to defend every ball in training, even if there's no block and we're just warming up. That's just his mentality. He's not scared. It's a very fine line, like who is amazing, who is outstanding, and what is like normal, expected of what a libero is.
Hi, Erik. Big thanks for joining my podcast. It's a great pleasure to host you. And big thanks for accepting my request.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
After playing so many years in Poland, how Polish is Erik Shoji today?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I feel like that's a hard question. I feel like after, 4.5 seasons now, I understand a lot how Polish people work and how they live, but I don't know. I'm always American in my heart, that's for sure.
Many Americans said to me that at the beginning of their time, either there were basketball players or volleyball players. The biggest cultural shock was that Polish people don't like small talk and don't smile. We have something like Polish smile, phrase Polish smile.
Yes.
And what about you? What was shocking for you when you moved to Poland, and what is not shocking for you right now?
Yeah, I think, what they're saying about the small talk is true. When you try to have small talk with Polish people, they don't really understand it, or they don't really like it. Or, in the US, we say, hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm good. And then things are kind of finished after that. But I don't think that really exists here in Poland quite as much. So for me, that was a little bit of a shock for sure. But to be honest, the smiling thing and laughing, that wasn't really a shock for me after being in Russia, after playing in Russia, because I think actually they probably smile less maybe there. But yeah, it's just different cultures. And then, yeah, I guess I'm used to it today. But, I try to bring my personality, myself to every conversation and have fun with it.
And coming from the Hawaii, because the region that is like, there is a stereotype that the people in Hawaii are always positive, always smiling. And, then you travel to like abroad through Germany, Austria, Russia, Poland. Do you sometimes miss like this Hawaii style of life?
Yeah, definitely. I think, that's my home, so I definitely miss it. One small difference maybe is, when people are passing on the street in Honolulu and in Hawaii, most of the time you're saying hello and maybe even a little bit more. And here that's not really the case, but I think that's just the culture and the style of people, and people have places to be and they don't want to talk or need to talk. So yeah, I think sometimes I miss this friendly stereotype of Hawaii where I come from, but it's just a different style over here.
And coming to volleyball, a few weeks ago I spoke with Joe Worsley from Tref Gdańsk. He played at University of Hawaii, and he said that like the Hawaii is like very volleyball state, that like volleyball players is like considered like superstars, and we cannot compare this attention, popularity to other like US states. So what is the reason that the volleyball is such a popular sport in Hawaii?
Yeah, it's definitely part of the culture where I'm from in Honolulu. I think one of the big reasons is that the college there has been really successful in volleyball around the nation. So The women's program traditionally has been very strong. My father was the coach of that team from 1975, I believe. And then, he retired 10 years ago. And then the men's team recently has been very successful. So the state loves to support the teams that they have and the successful teams on top of that. So that became very popular for young girls and young boys to watch the volleyball teams. And through all of that popularity, more and more young kids were playing, more adults were also playing and going to the matches. And I like to think, my dad had a really big part in that. But I like to say that we're a volleyball state. It's football and volleyball are probably two that are really competing, but we've had a lot of success.
And when you have a surname Shoji, you have to play volleyball because your dad, your mom also was involved with volleyball, not mentioning your brother, who is also well known in Poland.
Yeah, my family, it seems like we kind of had to, almost. My sister also played in university, so she was a volleyball player. But, it kind of came naturally because we were always around the sport, always around my father's teams. And we played other sports growing up, but I think that volleyball was always our number one and what we wanted to do in the future.
And tell me how your perception of volleyball on volleyball changed since you left USA to go overseas. Because when I speak with American volleyball players and they told me about the NCAA times, they told me that the coach was not only coach, but sometimes the father figure that, you spent 4 years there, you have most of the time the same teammates, same coach. And there is a different kind of relationship between the player and coaches. And then you move to the overseas when volleyball is your job. You've got your salary. Your job is to come every day to practice and play as best as you can. And you are if you play good, you are praised. When you are play bad, sometimes you're blamed. So it's different. How your approach, how you look on volleyball changed since you turned pro?
It's a difficult question because sorry, my light. It's difficult to balance the idea that this is the sport that I love and I have such a passion for, and it's what I want to pursue in life, with also understanding that this is our job and it's how we make money and it's how other people make money and it's a business. So you have to figure out how to balance that situation. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you have to learn is that for some of these players, volleyball is what they have and it's what they know, and that's how they're going to make their money. And also for the presidents and the coaches. So it's less probably about creating the relationships versus university, where the coaches really want to see you grow up and mature as a person and a player. And here it's a little bit more business while also creating some relationships in the process.
And is it really possible to create friendship when you play overseas, and usually the teams are changing their rosters every year?
Definitely. I think I have created a lot of different friendships throughout the years. I feel like I've almost have one really good friendship from every season I've played. So I think that's really cool. And for me to, make these friends who are from different countries and different cultures has been, one of the most rewarding parts of being a professional volleyball player, and just learning their lives and where they come from while also pursuing my dream of being a pro volleyball player.
And what you feel when you see how the women club volleyball is developing in USA? Because you have AU Pro, we have Love, we have MLV, and at the same time we don't have any leagues when it comes to the men volleyball. I remember years ago I spoke with Karch, and he said, in Poland, or other European countries, when television wants to show the games, with the federation asking for money, and they receive money from the broadcast rights. And he said, if you would like to do the same thing in USA, the USA television would call you how much you will pay us to show to broadcast the game. So do you think because of the progress of women volleyball, is there any change when it comes to the men volleyball in USA right now?
To be honest, I don't really think so. The sport is growing for sure within, boys and men that are playing volleyball in school and university. But as we're seeing, it's even difficult for the women to create these leagues and to be successful. And, AU is not a traditional league. And now they have, the MLV and also the Love Volleyball League. And they're in their, first couple of years. So I think in order to create a men's league, it's going to have to be, a bunch of different years of the women's league. And then men are going to have to kind of come after that. It's kind of the opposite of what most pro leagues are like in America, where the men came first and now the women are becoming really popular. So I wish, I hope that the women's league can be very successful, and because I think that will only help the men's side. But for now, I don't have too much hope in the near future.
And how you look at overseas volleyball when you were finishing your career at Stanford, and how this view changed when it comes to the reality?
Well, I really had no idea what pro volleyball was until maybe my third or fourth year in university. And that's only because my brother went overseas to start playing his career. In America, especially back then, in the early 2000s, 2010-ish, there was no YouTube, showing the games. There was no Polsat. Maybe there was Polsat. There was no, Volleyball World showing these matches. So we didn't know what this life was. I couldn't tell you the players that were out there. Whereas now, you ask young boys playing volleyball, they know Leon, they know, Matt Anderson, they know Micah Christensen, they know Gianelli because they're able to see it. So that's really cool. Back then, I had no idea. So for me, it was like, okay, my fourth year is ending. I think I want to play pro volleyball. Let's see what happens. And luckily, I was able to find a job. And then I had no real expectations. So then coming over here was just like, okay, let's go. Let's hit the ground and let's start the career. Let's just go for it.
Dustin Watten told me the story that his first season was in Finland, and he said that when people heard his salary, that with salary he earned in Finland, he couldn't pay the rent in California.
Yeah, that's the reality. Especially as a young libero, you're not making very much money, but my first year was in Germany, and I think that we were under very similar situations, financially.
But it's interesting because many times I'm quoting you, because you said many times that libero was the least paid position on volleyball. And when I ask other liberos, I don't know if I can agree or not, but in your opinion, why is that? It's because, the clubs focus so much on the guys who score points?
Yeah, I think I don't know who's disagreeing with me on that. I think that's mostly a fact. If you're looking at there's very rare, there are some guys, of course, in the libero position that are making good money, but I think the average would show that we make the least. So I don't know who's disagreeing with me, but it's okay. Anyone can disagree. That's fine. I think it's just we don't have a guaranteed impact on the match that some players do. A setter is touching the ball every point. An opposite can win the game for you with 32 points. Kero Butrin had 32 points last game and basically won the match, So sometimes I might get 7 receptions, 4 defense, 2 sets. I think it's valuable, but it's not guaranteed every game. So I think people know the value of the libero, but you can't risk spending too much money on it because you just don't know if you're going to have that impact on the match.
And when you are a foreigner, libero isn't a double problem because, the leagues have foreigner limits. And
Yes.
usually the clubs likes to spend these limits on opposites or outside hitters.
Yeah.
There's no many cases that clubs signing liberos, you have to be outstanding. And when you are American and you knowing that you don't have your domestic league, you have to have in mind that you sometimes have to be 2 times better than domestic player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think about my situation in Zaksa. I was really lucky that, the team filled up with amazing Polish players that allowed me to, they saw the libero position, they saw that they were able to take a foreign player, and I was on the market. So I was really fortunate in that situation. But like you said, if you're a foreign libero that is probably more expensive than a local libero, especially maybe a young libero, sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference between what we bring to the court and what these young players bring to the court, because it's a very fine line, like who is amazing, who is outstanding, and what is like normal, expected of what a libero is. So clubs have to figure out, what's important for them and how much money they're willing to spend, and then to see, can this foreign libero really make a big impact for our team? And luckily for me, in places like in Russia, Zaksa, and also here in Rosovia, they thought so.
And you said that libero as the least paid position, but do you think this is also the least appreciated position? That when you play good, okay, you play good, but when you play bad, you are one of the first to blame, and usually it's hard for libero to, for example, win a MVP of the game award.
I think we're actually becoming more appreciated as the years go on. But I think people really notice the errors that we make because we just don't have that many chances to touch the ball. So, when you make 3 or 4 reception errors, it just seems bigger because you might only touch the ball 20 times in the game. Whereas people usually forget if the outside spiker gets aced 4 times because they're making points. So people tend to really focus on the mistakes that we make. And if we make a really important play, they'll notice it, but then usually forget about it if we make the mistake. So I think people appreciate us, but they can be really hard on the liberos as well.
In your opinion, libero should be more reactive or predictive when it comes to the game?
Ooh, I think in today's game, it's a little bit more of placing yourself in the right position because it's so fast that most of the time you don't have that much time to react. You'll see a lot of defense today, it's just getting hit by the ball. So I think it's probably 70% prediction where you need to be, and then 30%, the skill of playing defense and actually, defending the ball.
But in today volleyball, you have video game analysis before the game. You have every opponent scouted, how they serve, when they serve, how fast they serve, and because of that, the services. Is there any surprising when it comes for you? The players like Leon serving so fast, but somehow that he will be serving so fast.
Yeah.
So. Could you share me how your preparation to game from libero perspective look like?
I think when it comes to reception, you're going to see a lot in today's volleyball, teams really risking, protecting part of the court, and giving up or allowing teams to serve, one of the lines because one, that's not their tendency. That's not their normal percentage where they serve. And also, it's a difficult serve to go to the line. So you're going to see different teams shifting their players in reception, either left or right or to the middle. And so that's something that, we do with the national team, we do here. We scout a server and then put our reception line in a certain place. That's for reception. And then for defense, it's a really coordinated effort with the block and with us. So, if the block is going to take one thing, we want to defend the other thing and really just stack our defense where we think the setter is going to set, and then also where the hitter will spike.
Sometimes on the teams we have situation when we have one libero for reception and other libero for the defense, that they are changing.
Yeah.
But when I spoke with most of the liberos, they said that they don't like this, that they want to be alone, responsible for defending and reception. And in case of Resovia, when you have this season free libero, how is it like to play, how is it to train, work with the fact that you don't have one guy to fight for the spot, but two guys, other two guys?
Yeah, I mean, with this season, actually, we've been, I don't want to say lucky, because one of our outside spikers has been injured a lot and not been able to be on the court. So that allows us all three to be on the court in training and then to rotate around. So that's fortunate for us. Obviously, we don't want that for our spiker. But I think our coach does a pretty good job of managing the trainings. And, if we're not on the court, we're usually on the second court doing reception or setting and doing extra work there. So, but I agree with other liberos. You never really want to be the going in and out. It's just hard for the rhythm. It's actually more tiring somehow because you're always going in and out. You can't really take a break. Mentally, it's hard to stay in there. So, yeah, I've done that before, and it's not that fun to do.
And what is the best lesson you learn about libero position that you learn because of your experience, that you didn't know like 15 years ago when you turned pro?
I think what people are seeing and what I've learned is that you have to, let's see, how do I put this? Simple and effective is better than flashy and unpredictable. I think when you're young and you want to make all these amazing saves and you want to make amazing sets and be crazy and all over the place, but a lot of the time you're going to miss certain things because of that. And if you miss a play now in volleyball, you lose, right? Like that's just how it feels. A lot of sets are by 2 points, 3 points. And if you make a poor set because you want to be too flashy, or, you're in the wrong position because you guessed wrong, it really affects the team. So for me now in my career, and especially at my age, I just like to be simple. I like to make the simple play and allow my teammates to do the rest of the work.
When you look at the young generation of libero, is there anything that you are jealous of, except that they are younger?
Yeah, definitely that they're younger. Jealous of, I think defense over the last, 10 or 15 years has really changed. Like I said, you're seeing liberos like Zhenya and like Zati, who the technical part of our bodies has become a little bit more upright. We're creating more space with our body. And that's something that I didn't know, I think, when I was younger or understand. And now liberos are seeing players like that, play defense, and they're doing it also and playing really well. So I think I'm jealous of that. But overall, I don't think much else.
And how is it like to train on daily basis with Paweł Zatorski? What is the most impressive thing about his game, in your opinion?
Ooh, there's so much that's impressive about Zati, but I think what I don't have is his fearlessness on the court. He is willing to just be in front of the ball, no block, doesn't care, wants to defend every ball in training, even if there's no block and we're just warming up. That's just his mentality. He's not scared. And for me, I can't do that. I think I'm fearless in the matches, but when it comes to training, sometimes I just get a little bit scared, if I'm being honest. These guys are hitting the ball so hard. So, Zati and also Potera here, I think it's at our age, we're all similar ages. It's impressive to just see how hard they work and how consistent they are in their effort in training and just their overall attitudes as well.
And what, because you said, what was the biggest thing you have to adapt when it comes to playing in PlusLiga? Is there was anything that surprised you when it comes to the game or the training?
I think initially, my first season, it was adjusting to the different serves that the PlusLiga had. I obviously had faced a lot of hard servers, on the national team and in Russia. But Poland's, the variety and the variations that Polish players had was really impressive. And I didn't experience that too much, in other places. And also the consistency in which they served was really high. So I think just adjusting to that high level of serving was tough, but I think I did it at some point.
You said about being fearless, that Zati is fearless also on the trainings. Also, when I was doing research about you and when I was listening to other interviews with you, you said many times about pressure, that pressure is a privilege. And do you have this approach from the beginning of career, or you have to be more mature to realize this?
I think I had to mature a little bit. I think, when you're young and you're put into these high tense, these high emotional matches, you don't quite understand why you're there or how to manage the emotions that you have. And I think, growing up and learning and maturing, I started to adjust my mindset that, I'm here because I earned it to be here. And this is where I want to be. I want to be in these high level matches, these high pressure moments, these high pressure leagues, and to show that I can be the best libero that I can be. Because I wouldn't want to give that up to just be in a lower level, right? I think so. For me, it's a privilege to be here, and that comes with some moments of pressure, and you have to accept that and start to really enjoy it.
And what are the biggest difference between Erik Shoji on the court and off the court when it comes to the character?
Oh, character. To be honest, I don't think there's much difference. I think, so many people are saying, oh, we need to separate our lives, from on and off the court. I agree with that to a certain extent, but, I think I try to be supportive to my people on and off the court. I try to be loving and kind and have a good spirit and be fun. And, I love to laugh and enjoy parts of life. So that's the person I'm on the court, and off the court as well. I'm probably a little bit more intense on the court. I'm pretty laid back off the court. So that's probably the biggest difference.
And do you consider yourself as an emotional person?
Ooh, emotional person. On the court, probably, I think so. Off the court, I don't think I'm that emotional, but I'm not afraid to show my emotions if they're there.
Yeah, that's interesting thing, because to be honest, don't be angry at me, but I will think otherwise, that you are more emotional off the court than on the court.
Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by emotional. I think I show my emotions, like you said. Like if I'm happy, I'm laughing, I'm joking, I'm not afraid to cry if I have to cry. I have people that I call if I'm feeling certain emotions and show them. But I think on the court is like, that's really, really who I am. And I like to express myself and really just have fun.
You many times mention it in your post on your social media and also in interviews, the importance of mental health, taking care of mental health. Do you remember first time you realized the importance of taking care of your own mental health?
Yeah, I think as an American, we're very open about these kinds of conversations. I think I think Americans in general talk about it more than probably Polish people and, athletes in general. I think my first season in Zaksa, at the start, I really struggled with the pressure and the expectations, and also just not feeling confident coming off the Olympics, in which our team didn't perform very well. So that was the first time I really kind of reflected on the mental health that I was dealing with, and found people to speak to and get stronger through that season. But it's a daily thing, and it should be for different people. And it's important to talk to people if you need to, and to try and stay level-headed through your life.
And the fact that most of your people are like 1,000 miles away from you, how is this changing your attitude? Because if you want to talk with somebody, you have to use phone. You don't have anybody nearby you live.
Well, I'm lucky. I feel like I have people here now over the years that I've created relationships with that I can speak to. So, being 11 hours or 12-hour time change from my home in Honolulu, there's like a time, between, let's say, 10 a.m. here and 5 p.m. here, where nobody's awake, in my family and my friends. So, it's just about messaging my teammates if I need to, some people that I know in Poland or in the community, and if I need to wait for my family, then I can wait for them. But I think reaching out to the people that I know that are around me has become really important to me.
When I look at USA national team throughout the years, you had many guys that could be great friends when it comes to talking about mental health. I mean, for example, Taylor Averill, he always was open about, he was in my podcast 2 years ago, and he shares so many stories about. And also one of the person I would like to talk about is Ben Patch, because he's also like the guy I was trying to find similarities between you and him. And I don't know if you agree, but there is some similarities when it comes to your characters.
Yeah, I think so. When I haven't, I don't speak with Ben that often anymore, just because he's so busy in his own world and being successful. And, I'm also pretty busy over here. But I think we have very similar, some similar personality traits. I think that, we're both fun, and we both, have fun with our friends and love life, and, just enjoy being around people. We have different approaches to some other things. He's very artsy. I'm not artsy at all. He was late to volleyball. I was very early to volleyball. So we're very different, but similar in some things. And I think that's why we were really cool when we played together.
I don't know if we can talk about this. If not, then tell me and I will apologize. But last year you came out. Ben also came out years before you. And I remember when he told me about this, he said that, I was doing interview. Somebody asked me about this. I just say about meeting other guy. And I wasn't even... It wasn't intentional. I didn't know. And when I heard your story, that means that I felt that was very planned. You have to prepare for so long.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah, I was out in my personal life for a couple of years, probably, and it kind of reached the point where I just felt like I wanted to do it and needed to do it for my own mental health, for a lack of better word, but just clarity in my life and where I've wanting to go in my life. And so it took some planning for sure. It probably was 5 or 6 months of planning and finding the right time to do it between all my craziness of life, and I did it.
I suppose your friends and family know much earlier about this. So how was their response? Was there anything surprising about their reaction?
Trying to think back. I don't think so. I come from a more conservative family for sure, but the love that we have for each other goes beyond that. And that has been really cool to see from my family. The love and support that we have for each other, trumped everything else, that I said or that, other family members have said. So I feel so loved and supported by them. Obviously, every day it's, they're adjusting and they're learning and, we're all going through it together, I think, but nothing really surprising. My dad just said, I'm still going to watch all your games because, he's a volleyball coach and dad. And currently we're trying to plan a trip to Poland for them. So all is good.
When I spoke with Ben, we were talking also about the masculinity. He said that in today's world, many guys are being afraid of showing their true themselves because of the pressure of society. And I was trying to ask him what is his definition of masculinity. He told me, but I also want to ask you about the same thing.
That's a really good question. Ben is much more like introspective and thinks about these things more than I do, if I'm being honest. What is masculinity? I mean, I don't know. I guess I could look up a definition, but I don't know. It's a good question. It's not something I truly think about that often, if I'm being honest. I think I just have a lot of other things going on, but I think the definition of masculinity is growing. You're seeing different types of men out there and different types of men that are being successful in all different types of life. And I think that's what's more important to see versus how we define certain things.
Also, there is one question I have to ask you, but think for the moment. Do you think the volleyball, especially men volleyball, is a safe place for vulnerable people?
I think so. I think coming out, I was nervous about the response from Poland, if I'm being honest. And, some of the people out here, just because I know it is a more conservative country and, there are certain laws in place around, that type of thing. But that being said, I feel like my teammates and staff are very open and open-minded, and I have received no bad attitudes or bad comments towards me from my team. Does that mean every team is like that? No. But I think volleyball in general in Europe is very accepting in my experience, and you're seeing more and more players, come out and have good lives and good careers, and I think that's really cool to see.
And do you think there is many men players that are still afraid of coming out?
I think there are. I don't necessarily think. I don't know people's experiences, of course. It's hard to think that they wouldn't because of volleyball, because of pro volleyball, but I don't know their experience. It could be something personal, but yeah, of course there's some players out there, but life is hard and you just never know what people are going through. But obviously I would encourage everyone to try and be themselves and to take a leap of faith, because I think it's been really rewarding.
And when you did this publication, this post, this video, it was more fear of I have to admit this, or fear maybe how people will react?
I knew it was going to get a positive response because most people in America are very open about these types of things.
Sure.
And I think, again, the volleyball fan base is also a very open place to be. It was also nice to receive some positive comments from the Polish players and some from Polish people that follow me as well. So that was really cool to see. I think I was actually more nervous to post it than I was to get the comments. I remember, like wanting to press post, and it just like took me a couple of minutes to breathe and work through that to finally do it.
And going back to volleyball, because we talk a lot about your club career, but when it comes to the national team career, I heard a story that when you first joined the national team, you were grateful that your brother was also at the camp, because he was talking to you where is the canteen, kitchen, stuff like that. And do you remember the moment when you first realized that you are truly right now national team player? That is not only, I received invitation to just show my chef. When you feel that you are really part of this team?
When I first felt a part of the team, that's a really good question. You know, I feel like I wasn't really comfortable on the team until maybe like 2015, I feel like. You know, World Cup of 2015, something like that. Because, you know, when you're young, you feel so vulnerable, and you feel like you don't have your true spot on the roster, and the coaches are always looking to evaluate and change you. And I felt like by 2015 World Cup, where I played like every game and we won the tournament, I was like, okay, this is my position now. This is my spot. I feel a little bit more comfortable and part of the team.
I remember, because when I look at the USA liberos, I always really remember, I don't want to say rivalry, but I don't have other words, between you and Dustin Watten, because always like the first libero was either you or him, and you both played also in Poland. I also have many chance to talk with Dustin, great guy. And tell me how this, let's say rivalry boost your like both motivation, or like boost your like approach to the training, because one thing probably many players would like to say, I would like to be number one and don't have other like good number two libero.
Yeah.
But I think in your case and his case, the fact that sometimes, like for Olympics 2016, you have to fight for one spot, that boost help you improve, like when it comes to your game.
It's really complicated, to be honest, when you are playing with a teammate and someone that you need to support and you really like and you're friends with, and for 3.5 summer seasons, you're both traveling, you know, and you're both playing and you're talking and you're scouting the other teams together, and then all of a sudden, bam, for the Olympics, it can only bring one of us. It's very unique. I think it's different than some of the other positions where normally you're traveling with 4 outside spikers, and then for the Olympics, you're also bringing 4 outside spikers. So it's a little bit different. You really just have to compete as hard as you can and train as hard as you can out of respect for that other person. So I think Dustin and I really pushed each other. I saw how hard he was working, and I was like, oh shoot, I need to like step up my game. And then I think he saw, you know, certain things maybe that I was doing and then wanted to step up his own game. And I think we saw that in Poland. Like Dustin played really, really well towards the end of his career here in Poland, which was really cool to see. But yeah, it's tricky, but you really have to form that friendship, form that bond, and compete against each other as hard as you can, because that shows that your respect and love for each other.
I know that you were asked this question a few times, but I have to ask you again. I mean, to compare the Olympics in Rio with Olympics in Paris. I know that in Rio, like you said, you mentioned this 2015 season when you started feeling, part of this team. So you were much more mature in Paris, but in both cases, you have to fight for the medal after tough loss.
Yeah.
And when you compare these two tournaments also, and I mean this also the final part of these two tournaments, what are the biggest difference you see when you reflect right now?
The first thing that comes to mind is our age, like our team, our age, that it's pretty obvious we were all 8 years older in Paris. And the time after the semifinal to the bronze medal match seemed a lot shorter in Paris than it did in Rio, because I think our bodies were just feeling it a lot more, and it was more difficult to come back and recover from that game. I remember in Rio, I think being so young, I think the emotions were really overwhelming, especially in the semifinal. And then in the bronze medal, it was, I don't even remember that game, to be honest. I've watched it, but I don't remember, how it really went. So I think the emotions really took over the way I was able to think and process. And then in Paris, I was very aware of, what I was feeling and how I could deal with it. And that just comes with maturity and playing more often. But yeah, I mean, it just sucks to be in that position. But of course, we're happy that we have 2 bronze medals because of that.
Tell me, when you reflect of that game against Poland, I remember a few months ago I spoke with Grzegorz Łomacz. He said he always hate to play against USA because their middle blockers. He said that I always hate to play against American. I always play bad against American.
Really?
And he said that he didn't like to play against your team. And surprisingly, this game happened, and we know he was like the joker. And this, could you tell me I don't know, because everybody know how this game went, so I don't want to go into the details of the game. But what happened after you move from the court? Could you describe the emotion you had in locker room, in hotel? Because for sure, one thing is to lose, and second thing is to lose in these circumstances.
Yeah. It was hard. It was so emotional, and you feel like your whole life leads up to this moment, and it just doesn't turn out the way that you want. I just remember kind of falling to the ground when we were done outside of the court and crying and just wanting to be around family and the people that were there to support us, because obviously we were disappointed. We didn't want to disappoint them. And yeah, it's just all of the emotions that you could think of losing an Olympic semifinal in 5 sets, 15-13 in the 5th set. But at the same time, I remember also seeing some of my Polish friends and, wanting to congratulate them because they played a really good game. And I know the type of pressure that they had been feeling leading up to the Olympics. So I was probably more devastated than happy for them, if I'm being honest.
For sure, yeah.
But, it was hard, and it's hard to recover, and it's hard to want to play that bronze medal game and to come back. But I'm really proud of what I was able to do, and of course what our team was able to do.
And after the last ball of bronze medal game, you felt more of happiness or maybe relief that this game is over and you have, this medal, another.
Probably more happiness. I think going into the tournament, I think everybody that follows men's volleyball knew that probably like 8 teams could win a medal, 9 teams, more, I don't know. So, and we were also nervous that Italy was going to be more fresh than us because, like you said, it's different to lose in 5 versus to lose in 3. So, the bronze medal is a little bit bittersweet, but I think it was more sweet in the end, for sure.
And is there any big changes when it comes to the national team today when Karch became a head coach and you became also the captain of the team?
Yeah, I was captain for, I guess overall captain of VNL last year, but Karch kind of split that up between a couple of us, which was good. I don't need all of that on my shoulders. Big differences. Not really, I would say. The structure of training is very similar. How we do our day in the national team, how we eat, how we travel. Most of it has stayed fairly consistent. I think Karch has a little bit of a different style than Spera, but overall, it's pretty similar.
Funny thing, when I spoke years ago with Karch and when I heard interview with him, he always said that, men volleyball is boring because there is about, jumping high and shooting hard. And he said that he prefers women volleyball. And so, I remember when I heard that he became a head coach of men volleyball. What right now? What you said right now? So for me, it was a big difference because he many times said he didn't like to watch men volleyball, and how it's like to work with him, how he is as a person. Because I remember when he visited the Poland with the women team, there is such an aura around him. I remember when there was I think World Championship 2022. Poland played amazing game against USA, won 3-0. He sit alone, on the chair in the media zone, and many people was looking at him, but just from 10 meters, just not to disturb him, but everybody was looking at him because he got such an aura. And from the player perspective, player-coach relationship, how it's like to work with him on a daily basis?
It's really good to work with Karch. I think he's tough. He's a tough coach. He cares so much about our team and about our sport and about us as people that when you realize that and then you see how hard he's pushing the team, you feel like he's fighting for his life for us. And I think that's really important. And Karch is Karch 100%. He doesn't change for anybody. He's himself all the time. So he's so genuine. And I think that's really important as a coach because you can really respect that. But yeah, I think he's different than Spara. I think we've all had to adjust a little bit, but I think by the time we got to the Philippines for World Champs last year, we were like, okay, this is our guy right now. He's our guy that's going to lead us hopefully to a gold medal in LA and other medals leading up to that. But you said Karch has an aura, and he does. I mean, first of all, he's arguably the GOAT of our sport. People could argue some other things, but he's the GOAT for me. He was watching our match in Lüneburg a couple of weeks ago, and he was watching our training. And after training, probably, I think everyone on our staff and probably 8 players went up to him and asked for a photo. And I just don't think I've seen that from our team or from Polish guys in general. So that was pretty cool to see.
You mentioned LA Olympics. The scenario of seeing Erik Shoji in LA 2028 is realistic or more science fiction?
I hope it's realistic. That's the goal. I think this season has been a little bit different in my life. I think everybody has kind of seen the way that our team has gone. But the goal is to continue to be the starting libero for USA until LA. So I hope it's realistic. Yeah,
but because I ask this because, some people can mention your age, but also some people can mention the case of Serginho in Rio, when he was also his last tournament and he was MVP of the tournament. And for American, how is to feel that there will be Olympics in your country and you have a chance to play in front of your country?
It's so special. We're so excited and emotional about it. We don't get to play very many games in front of our USA fans. We're doing VNL maybe 4 matches in the summer. One of those is usually against Poland in Chicago, which is not really... It's an American crowd, but it's a Polish fan crowd. So, it's going to be something special, especially because when you're in the Olympics, it's people that don't normally watch volleyball. It's just USA fans. So they're going to be there. They're going to be loud. And the arena that the team will be playing in is right down the street from where we train every day. So that's also really exciting.
And coming to the end, I have to ask you, what made you a social media beast? That you are,
Yeah. Oh. It was mostly COVID, I feel like, that we were all just kind of bored and at home. And the first thing that I started was my YouTube, really. just wanting to show people volleyball and how I think about volleyball and reacting to these cool matches that I was playing in and that other people were playing in. So that's where it started. And then realizing that you have to have some sort of short form content out there as well. And I think in 2021 bubble of VNL, that's kind of where I started and took off a little bit. So yeah, there's some selfish intentions there, of course, but I really just wanted to show people volleyball and how cool it can be and how cool my national team was.
And do you see some kind of educational aspect in your content you made? That, you know, do you think that sometimes you creating content for example, kids or teenagers that, you know, looking up to the stars and want to have like some tips? You mentioned the fact that you were a NCAA player. You didn't have the chance to watch the games, and right now, when like the teenagers have a chance to, you know, watch a top 5 digs, top 5, you know, the serves, attacks, and do you have that part that you are not only the influencer, content creator, but in some cases also a teacher?
Yeah, well, I feel like my YouTube, I haven't posted in a long time, but is more educational in the sense that I'm showing more techniques and talking about strategies and what certain players are doing on the court. So for me, that is a combination of creating content and showing my personality, but also trying to be educational. And then when I post, you know, some short form videos, I think they can be educational. I don't explain things necessarily like I do on YouTube, but in one way it's educational because young players are seeing me and other players playing in Poland and playing in Russia, and it's cool to have people come up to me and be like, oh, I saw you in Zaksa, or I saw you in Resovia. And for me, I'm like, you know what that is? Like, I didn't know what Zaksa was until 10 years ago, you know? So that part is really cool. And then to be able to show some day in the life or how we travel or what shoes I have is, I think, pretty cool also.
When I look at the list of your achievements, there was a lot of silver and bronze medals. And I was sorry, of course there was some also trophies, no? Yes. To be fair. But the question is, because I don't think you will be mad at me if I said that you're coming like so close to like the end of your career. But when you reflect on your career, are you appreciate the all accolades, all trophy you create, or there is something like feeling that of missing something? Do you still have the same hunger as you had like 10, 15 years ago?
Yes, definitely. I feel like I have it more because I know that we're capable. I think when I was young, I was like, I'm happy to be here. Like, let's try hard and hopefully win. You know, the 2014 World League that we won, I think that was pretty surprising to a lot of people. I think even to us, probably. And then from there, we were like, okay, we can win a medal every tournament. And I think we've been really successful in getting a lot of medals. So that's cool. But now I'm like, I have probably, 3 more summers, 2 more professional seasons in me. And I want to win. That's what I want to do. I want to help my team win. And I want a gold medal. I want an Olympic gold. I want a PlusLiga gold. I want whatever gold I can get.
And when you're waking up every day, looking in the mirror, do you see a satisfied person?
I'm getting there. I think a combination of finally truly being who I am and accepting that and living the life that I want to live in that way is part of it. And then also understanding that I've put in a lot of work in my career to be where I am today is really satisfying to understand finally. But I want more. I'm never truly satisfied. Like I said, I want to win. I want to create good relationships and have really good experiences along the way.
What advice you will give to Erik, who just graduated from Stanford?
Oof. That's a really good question. I think one, don't be afraid to be yourself. And it's not necessarily about me coming out and all of that, but not being afraid to talk to people and to express yourself and to be open with people. And I think when I was younger, I've talked about this a lot, but I was really, really shy and like not capable of asking people to go to coffee or a lunch. I really hated that. And I think that's something I'm very proud of, how I've grown to be able to do that and to create relationships like that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is like, don't be afraid, take some risks, get outside of yourself and, you'll see how cool it is.
It's funny to hear this because most of the people in Poland see you as a very open person, and hearing that you were shy, it's like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up like in the corner, if I'm being honest. My father was, a public figure, and my mom is a very social, kind person, and my brother can talk for days. Honestly, like he can be very annoying how much he talks. And I was kind of the quiet one. So I grew up really quiet. I wouldn't say until like social media has helped me really come out of my shell a little bit. But yeah, the Polish people didn't know me, 10 or 15 years ago. So.
And a part of staying healthy, what I can wish to you?
Ooh, you can wish me just positive attitude, every day. I think I try to do that. It's not always easy, but just peace of mind and a positive attitude.
So I wish you this, and I also thank you for being a part of my podcast. It was a great pleasure to host you. Great pleasure to hear your story. As I said before we start, I was trying to organize this interview for so long, so I'm very grateful.
Well, thank you for keep trying
for this possibility. And like I said, it was a big pleasure to hear your story and hearing you being so open to me and all the listeners.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.